Peace. What's up? This is your brother, Mr. Holipsism. I'm here to review Captain America Civil War. This is going to be a non-spoiler review, meaning I don't want to do two videos. That just seems to be a waste of time. So what I'll do is I'll do a non-spoiler review, not giving away any spoilers, and basically just giving my initial thoughts of the film. And then after that, when I get through, I'll clearly mark it out so that you guys will know, and I'll give a spoiler review. Now, first thoughts. Um, First, to cut to the chase, love this movie. Um, I believe, you know, the first Avengers has a sentimental space in, I guess, each Marvel fan's heart. Like, that seems to be the movie that, from a sentimental point of view, that movie is hard to top that. And it's not because it was such a great film in terms of story telling and you know structure and dramatics and stuff like that, because I think most of us would agree that Captain America Winter Soldier is probably the best Marvel film. Um but I would put this one right up there with the Avengers, first Avengers, and Winter Soldier, and because it's arguably just as good as, if not better than, both of those films. Arguably, I think this is a tough one between this one and the Winter Soldier. Mm, that's tough because I really like the Winter Soldier, but just in terms of upping the ante, you got to give it to this one. You know what I'm saying? What impressed me about this movie was the balance of it, how they were able to balance humor, action, darkness. You know what I'm saying? Like, they took you through the roller coaster of emotions without seeming off key and off kilter. Like some movies don't establish a proper tone, and tonally, it doesn't work. Like, I'll give you an example. I remember in Batman versus Superman, it seemed like the humor was always forced, and it was a really humorless movie for the most part. It was really dark and serious, and when it tried to inject humor, it just seemed like out of place. Like when Wonder Woman comes and helps out Batman and Superman, Superman turns to Batman and says, "Is she with you?" And then Batman says, "I thought she was with you." It didn't fit the scene, and also it was illogical because Batman had just emailed her, so you knew exactly who she was. So it didn't make any sense, you know. And I know people are some people are upset because it's going to be compared to Batman v Superman, but hey, this is what's going to happen. I mean, you can't help but compare. When DC puts out something and when Marvel puts out something, it's going to be compared. I mean, that's just the way it goes. And like I said, I'm just a fan of good movies, so I can appreciate both of them. But let's get back to the movie Civil War. Um, I was impressed by Spider-Man. Tom Holland did an excellent job, and I'm looking forward to Marvel's um, interpretation of Spider-Man with Homecoming. I'm looking forward to that because I thought that this character and this actor really pulled it off. He was really captured the spirit of the original Spider-Man in the comic books. Um, he had a really good chemistry with Robert Downey Jr. And once I saw him and Robert Downey Jr. working with each other, because that's what got him the gig. There were a lot of people up for the part, but he was the one that seemed to vibe well with Tony. And I can tell they have a good chemistry together. And in fact, Tony's going to be in Spider-Man's movie. Um, Black Panther, loved it, loved it. I thought that he was handled correctly. He was given the gravitas that he deserved, and I'm really looking forward to his solo movie. Um, Everybody had their chance to shine. Like in the big airport fight scene that everybody's talking about, and I can honestly say it is definitely, I can't think of another superhero fight scene that's better than it. I mean, it completely took things to the next level, and people are going to have to really seriously step their game up if they're going to compete on that level. I mean, even the Russo brothers have to step their game up for Infinity Wars, but I have absolute trust and faith in these guys because these guys are fans, and you can tell they're fans because there's no way you would get these type of interpretations of these characters from people that are not fans. So yes, um, I'm confident in the Russos. I'm confident in Kevin Feige. And what else? I mean, I don't. What else can I say? I mean, everybody in the movie performed great. There were also a lot of brothers in the movie. I mean, I was kind of surprised. I mean, I never really sat back and thought about it, but you had Falcon, you had Rhodes, War Machine, you had Black Panther. So there was some, you had some brothers in there, which was kind of cool. Um, Falcon was great, definitely upgraded. The Russos really seem to know what to do with these characters. Like Falcon was cool, Rose was cool, Black Widow, she was tearing shit up. She did her thing. Um, Scarlet Witch, Vision, Ant Man. Oh, there's a big surprise in the Ant Man sequence when he's doing when his part of the battle that's going to be a crowd pleaser. And it's just everything was handled great. And I don't want to give away anything because if I give away too much it's going to spoil the movie, in this non-spoiler section. But I will say this, that when you can pull off that many characters and create a tone that is basically joyous and serious at the same time, where you can take people on that ride and where they can laugh, they can groan, they can cry, they can, it was just a roller coaster of emotions that you go through, yet not go off the rails. That is some artful filmmaking. And that's what I'll say. I think that this movie was artfully done. And you should definitely go and see it. Definitely. I give this movie, I give it a 10. I can't really say 9.5 because then I have to justify why, and I would really have to nitpick to give this, less than a 10. This movie is a 10. I would give like if it's not better than Captain America Winter Soldier, it's just as good as it, arguably, and just as arguably as joyous and as fun as the first Avenger. So it's the best of both worlds, really. It's like the seriousness and the intrigue of Winter Soldier and the lightheartedness and the fun and the joy of the Avengers. Because the Avengers, when you walked out of the movie after you seen the Avengers, you walked out feeling good and smiling like a little kid, really. And I got that same feeling in this movie, especially when Spider-Man shows up. You know what I'm saying? It's like he just killed it. But that's my initial thoughts and my overall viewpoint of the movie. I would definitely say check it out. And I'm going to end the non-spoiler portion of the review right here. I'm going to give you a chance to, turn this off. Don't mess with it because spoilers are coming after this. Okay, you've been warned. Now, I was talking to my cousin and my girlfriend on the phone. We were having a discussion, and I said that if I had to compare DC to Marvel at this particular point, it's like if you go to, let's say you want Italian food, and I'm going to say that comic book movies are the equivalent of Italian food. You can go to Olive Garden, which is like a chain restaurant that has some Italian dishes, but you can't really classify it as Italian cuisine. It's Italian fast food. It's like if you were to take Italian food and make a McDonald's version of it, then you would have um, Olive Garden. Or you can go to a 5-star Michelin rated restaurant and get Italian food. Right now, Marvel is that 5-star Michelin rated restaurant that you get your Italian food from, and DC is the Olive Garden. And that's not to be disrespectful to DC, it's just being objective for what it is. Marvel takes so much time and thought and effort, and you can tell that their movies have been through a process. There's very little logical holes in them. I mean, given it is a comic book movie, of course there's going to be logical leaps of bounds in a comic book movie, but I'm saying plot holes, big glaring plot holes, usually you don't find them in Marvel movies because they really take their time to make sure that they do a well crafted story that blends together. And this is masterfully done in this movie. Um, when you see the initial conflict and how it builds from there, there is no right or wrong in this story. There's only perspective and what perspective you see and from what angle you're looking at it. I can totally see where Iron Man is coming from, and I can totally see where Captain America is coming from. And there's flaws and problems on each side. So as the thing plays out, um, nothing. No, I mean, it's so easy for this to just be fan service. Where you say, "Hey, I want to see so and so versus this and so versus that." That's cool. But when you can bring it together in a plausible way where it makes sense and it doesn't seem forced or contrived, I that's masterful storytelling. Every person on each side has a reason for being on their side and a motivation. Even Spider-Man inclusion in the big fight scene has a motive behind it. You know what I mean? It's not just shoehorned in. Um, when it goes that and let me just talk about the big fight scene for a moment. Um, you know, Even though this is the spoiler section of it, I know there's the part where Ant-Man grows into Giant Man, which is really, really cool and unexpected. Didn't see that one coming. There's Spider-Man, who was in the movie a lot more than I thought he was going to be. He was like one of the major parts of the big fight scene. Um, and he was hilarious. He was just he was just hilarious. He was acting like a kid, like a fanboy amongst all of these superheroes that he admired or whatever, and he was just there, to try to contain things or try to do what Stark said because Stark was the one who brought him to the table. Um, Black Panther, I like the way that he was handled because he had his own motivation and his own agenda. He wasn't on anybody's side. He just happened to be fighting on a Tony side because Tony, the Winter Soldier was on the opposite side because he thought that the Winter Soldier killed his father. That fight scene had it was like a roller coaster. It was fun stuff in it, there was serious stuff in it, and when it ended with Rhodey getting hurt, it took on a serious tone. Or it basically said, "Oh snap, we're doing all this playing and all of this destruction, and we don't realize that there's real world implications." So I like the part when Rhodes hits the ground and both Tony and Falcon try to save him, but they make it too late. And then Falcon tells Tony, "I'm sorry," and Tony just hits him with a repulsor ray. It's like, get the fuck out of here. So that made the things turn a little bit more serious. Then we get to the final act where Iron Man goes basically to Siberia to help Captain America because he figured out that what's his name, the Winter Soldier, wasn't actually the one that killed those people at the beginning of the movie. So this is where the movie got darker. And the crazy part about it was that it got darker, but it still wasn't starkly um it didn't take you out of the movie. Like the tone that the movie has set so far, it went darker, but at the same time it didn't go off the rails because you totally understood why it went darker. You know what I'm saying? And you understood the motivations of each character involved. So when you see that fight scene, and this is why I say you got to have good characters and you got to be emotionally invested in these characters, because when you do all of this cool fight stuff, and it's cool, it looks cool and whatever, but it makes it more impactful if you care about the characters. Because if you was like when I found out, like didn't see it coming until Tony said, "I remember this road." Then I was like looking at it, I'm like, "Oh shit, did he fucking kill his parents?" And that's exactly what happened. And everybody in the theater was like, "Oh," they was groaning, and it took on a real dark, serious tone right there. Because especially for Iron Man, because Tony's the fast mouth, quippy type of guy. You don't really want to see him. You don't really get to see him with that bloodlust, and you got a chance to see that because he got to see and witness on video his parents being murdered by the Winter Soldier, who was under the control of whoever was controlling him. He didn't do it of his own free mind, but the bottom line is the guy that kills your parents is standing right there. So Cap tried to stop Tony initially, and Tony asked him, "Did you know about this?" And Cap admitted that he did know. And that's when things really got dark, because he's like, "Fuck you." Knocks Cap out the way and goes straight after Bucky. And then Cap is trying to protect Bucky. Bucky is trying to protect his own ass. So you got all this stuff going on, and it makes the fight have this impact, this emotional impact to it that makes it head and shoulders above all the other stuff that you've seen with um I don't want to beat up on Batman versus Superman, but just head and shoulders above that. Because like I said, the confrontation between Batman and Superman didn't make much sense to me, and it seemed like fan service. And I agree. Somebody has said it. I don't know who it was, but they said that they should have just did the Dark Knight Returns. Forget about the Justice League. Forget about the death of Superman. Just do the Dark Knight Returns, and they would have had a better chance doing that. But I don't want to get into DC. We're dealing with Civil War right now. But yeah, man, that's the thing that really impressed me. And what another thing that impressed me was how it blended the other movies from the past into this movie, and it gave you real world implications for what the Avengers were doing. Like, take for instance, I'll use that as an example. You remember when in the first Avengers, when Captain America says Hulk smash, and Hulk goes and jumps on the buildings and takes out the aliens or whatever? Well, in this movie, they have video footage, obviously from a cell phone, of someone taking the action. And when the Hulk jumps on the building, the debris falls on the person taking the picture. So that person died. So it puts things, so like you're thinking in the first Avengers, you're like, yeah, Hulk smash, but people are dying as he's doing his thing. And that's what Tony's whole thing was. He was like, listen, we have to be put in check. We can't just go running around the world, killing, people dying, and we're just out there kicking ass and looking cool where people are losing their lives, and good people. Because Tony got approached by a mother who had lost her son in Sokovia, the incident in Sokovia. And she told him that she blames him. So not only does he have the guilt of Ultron, he has, creating that and creating all that destruction, but he also has, deaths on his hand that he considers his fault. And he's like, no accountability. So we need to change that. Captain America, on the other hand, when you think about it, his best friend has his mind controlled by, some group or some, it may not be a government, but it's an organization. So he's naturally mistrustful of organizations. He's saying, I don't trust them. What if we have to go somewhere and they say, no, you can't go? What are we going to do? We're just not going to go because we're under the control of this. We're going to let people die, and because the government doesn't want us to do anything. And then somebody in a review raised another extra interesting point. Since it's government and they can tell them what they can do and when they can do it, what if the government told them to help out Hydra? I mean, government deals are cut every single day. Friends are enemies one time and enemies are friends the next time. You know what I'm saying? It can go like that. So you can see it from Captain America's perspective. And that's the great part about this movie. There is no right or wrong side. You know? It's just perspective, and it gives you it's a conversation, because when you lead this movie and you talk about it, you're going to have people on both sides giving their points of views on why they feel Cap was right, why they feel Tony, Steve Rogers was right, and nobody's right, nobody's wrong, you know. And at the end of it, it kind of fractures the, well, not kind of, it fractures the Avengers. There's no real resolution. It's sort of like a Empire Strike Back type thing. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no clear cut resolution to anything. It's just that things stopped, um, and that wound is still open. And I don't know how it can be repaired, because even though technically, if you look at it objectively, the Winter Soldier didn't do what he did because he meant to do it. He was being brainwashed and brain controlled. But the reality is that he did it. And he even said that in the movie. I did those things. Whether I was in control or not, I was the one who did them. You know? So I strongly suggest you see this movie. I mean, I don't have anything written down. This is just a freestyle. I'm gonna put it out there. But my boy Thorough said that he wanted to do a movie review with me. So maybe we'll have a conversation and put that up. But for now, those are my thoughts, and I hope you take them into consideration when you go to see this movie. And I hope you have a good time, and because you're definitely going to have a good time. And do me a favor, watch the movie and enjoy the movie and experience the movie. Don't go into the movie trying to analyze the scenes. You can do that afterwards. Sit back, relax, enjoy the ride, because it's a good one. And that's all I can say for now, and I will talk to you good people later. Peace.